I'm Christina.
And I'm Matt.
And this is New Ways Podcast. Today, our guest is a happiness coach, as well as CEO and founder of Hit of Happiness, Brian Dubow. Thank you for being here with us.
I love being with you guys. It's the best.
I was going to say, for our listeners who are tuning in right now, we did also record a previous podcast with Brian, so please check that out. That one was more about like his beginning stages of going from the basic corporate world to finding his own groove and happiness. And this episode is going to be about when he stepped into his new role and how to cultivate a little bit more happiness in your own life. So let's jump kind of into right where we left off.
Yeah, absolutely. So we left off with me leaving the corporate world with this vision of I'm going to build a business around happiness, not really knowing what that looks like. But that started with going to business school, doing my MBA at UCLA, Anderson School of Management. And so I really focused on the entrepreneurship track, first of all, where it was, one of our capstone projects was to build a business. So I had 4 other MBAs working with me on my business. And essentially we were doing research to figure out, like, what does the business of happiness look like? Do people even want happiness? Who wants happiness? What age demographic is this for? And is the business look more like something that's scalable? Is it video content that we put out every day? Is it turning me into the next Tony Robbins? We experimented with like everything. And I was a part of a venture accelerator for a summer, got some grant money. And at the end of 2 years, I kind of landed on 2 facets to the business. There's coaching, one-on-one coaching, and I'll talk more about what I've seen works in coaching, especially on the happiness front. There's the need for happiness in the corporate world, and that looks like workshops, group coaching, as well as keynote speaking. And for that, it's a lot about morale. Especially nowadays, there's tons of corporate layoffs. And what that does is that kills team morale. So how do we build morale again, get people back into a better headspace? And it doesn't always look like a happiness workshop. Sometimes it looks like talking about, I have a workshop on magnetic connection. Sometimes it looks like a workshop on time management or storytelling, but all throughout it's layering in the science of happiness, and it's helping people connect and bond in vulnerable ways, because that makes people happy, as we talked about connection in the last one. And the last piece was when I graduated, I actually pitched the business school on the idea for a new class. And essentially, I went to business school thinking this is 2 years of self-exploration. By the end of it, I'm going to have so much more clarity on who I am, what I want, et cetera. And the reality was, within the first month of getting to business school, they say, do you want to be a marketer, a consultant, a banker, a strategist, or 2 or 3 more options? And business school is very, very good about once you make that decision, they put you on a track and they help you get a job in that area. They connect you, if you're in marketing, they connect you with everyone at Mattel and at Nike, and they're going to hook you up. But what if you have no idea? Or what if you're exploratory? Or what if you're an entrepreneur who's just trying to figure out what it looks like? What if you don't know what career will make you happy? And so I pitched them on a class, and the semester after I graduated, they said, you can do a trial run. And it was a group coaching class called Alive. And the whole idea to me was figure out what makes you feel alive. And so the course, it goes through concepts like, what is success to you as opposed to your parents or society? Because most people have never delineated the 3. What are your top values, and how are you living in alignment with them? When you celebrate yourself, are you living in alignment with your top values? For example, a lot of people say one of their top values is wellness. But when you're celebrating, you go to a bar and black out. Is that celebrating through your values? No. So helping people come to terms with, like, are they actually living their life in alignment with their top values? What are your superpowers? And even like calling a friend and saying, why are we friends? Why are we friends? And if you ask someone enough times, they're going to be like, because you do this thing, or because, you're always there for me no matter what, even when, I need you in the middle of the night, or whatever. Like, doing exercises that are very out of people's comfort zones to really get clear on who they are. Beyond that, how to tap into your intuition. What are your limiting beliefs? So that by the end of the journey, they have a lot of clarity on who am I and what's important to me. And more so, I think a big part of the value of the class is realizing that you're not alone. Because I think a lot of humans going through anything think they're the only one. I'm the only one who's stressed about getting the job when I graduate. I'm the only one who feels like I have friends, but not like really close friends. And I feel like I should have more friends. I'm the only one. And in reality, we're all going through the same things. And it's really interesting. Business school attracts very high performers. Most high performers are motivated by not feeling like they're enough. So I would say 95% of my students struggle with the syndrome of I am not enough. And they're constantly doing more and feel they need to be productive all the time. And that's a version of escapism in a way. And helping them realize that like, oh, you're all feeling this. But actually, if you look backwards, how many times have you actually failed in your lives? Like, what reason do you have to believe that you're not enough when you're in a top 20 business school in the country? And kind of reframing things like that. They're so focused on their to-do lists because they feel like they're not enough. How do I get to the top of the mountain? What about your ta-da list? All the things you've done in the past. Ta-da.
I love that. I love that so much.
So that's been a fun journey. I've taught that for the past couple of years. And then there's been the coaching journey, which I've realized happiness is just a piece of the journey when you're helping someone become the best version of themselves. And in the beginning, I thought I was a happiness coach. Now I actually think of myself more as a self-actualization coach. But you can't reach that until you're happy. And what I mean by that, and by the way, just to clarify this, no one's going to be happy all the time. Happiness is a journey. Just today, I've been happy, joyous, anxious, sad, somewhere in the middle too. The day is a roller coaster, but ideally we want to have more positive than negative emotions in a given day. And month over month, we want to be 10% happier, not happy, but happier. And that is progress because over the course of a year, you won't even recognize yourself. But what I've found is that when you're not happy, happiness is everything. All you can think about is like, when will I be happy? Like when will what needs to happen for me to be happy? Like this life is this, why am I even doing this thing? But when you are happy, you're in a position to make more of this life. So less than it being a destination or a journey, it's a tool to do more with your life. And so when I see clients, now that I've done this long enough, I realize that there's kind of 4 buckets and I meet people where they're at. Bucket 1 is stuck. And there's a lot of people who are stuck and they're not happy, but they don't know what to do about it. And they've kind of just accepted like, this is just my life. And I'm just going to deal with this until it's over.
I call that the comfortable numb.
Yeah.
And I don't like that place at all. I know. Yeah.
Totally. I felt comfortably numb when I was in the corporate world. It was like, it's not like I was as uncomfortable as I might be in mile 20 of a marathon. That's real discomfort. My legs are literally throbbing. But
you're not numb though.
But I'm not numb. I'm alive in those moments.
Exactly.
So you're actually comfortable in that situation because like I wasn't worried about a roof over my head, but I wasn't feeling alive. I was just going through the motions. And a lot of times we can't see a way out of our life situation. So it's just like, I'm stuck. And those people either need to hit rock bottom, that wakes you up, or they need to listen to this podcast. This will wake you up. Or they need to have a conversation with someone who inspires them. They need to come into direct contact with someone who has the right energy to wake them up and say, maybe there is more. Maybe I should give this life a fair shot. So that's bucket 1. A lot of people after a keynote will come up to me and tell me, I just feel stuck. And, I woke them up to realize that they felt stuck and then they're ready to begin the journey. So the journey then begins in phase 2. That is survival mode. In survival mode, there's more. You have goals, but life is just so hard because you're either juggling too many balls and you feel like you're, strapped, you're financially burdened or strapped, something is going on that you can barely keep your head above water. And for these people, I think it's really all about, let's build better habits. Let's start doing the things that are scientifically proven to make us happier, such as what we talked about in the last podcast, but exercise, meditation, journaling, meaningful connection, doing things that we know will make us feel good. And like life isn't as heavy as it might feel in that moment, so that you can really have a clear headspace for a second and be like, oh, like I can handle this. You can come up with new solutions. You can, sometimes it's not you, but it's bringing the right people into your life to help you come up with the right solutions. Having enough clarity to be like, I need a coach, or I need a therapist, or I need a hug from my parent, whatever it is, So to me, the happiness journey is really the journey that takes you from surviving to thriving. It gets you to a point where you don't feel like you have a black cloud over your head all the time. It's acknowledging what are your weakest links head on and tackling that first. And then once you have a baseline of happiness, it's like, well, what else can I do? Because my life's not over. I found this thing where I feel good most of the time, but my life's not over. So what now? And that to me is when the coaching gets really fun. That's phase 3, which is the self-awareness journey of, now that I've realized that I can do anything, but I can't do everything, what do I want that thing to be? And that's a lot of the topics I talked about in the class I teach at the business school at UCLA of like, what is success to me? What would I do if someone gave me $10 million, but I still had to work? What would I do? Thinking about those bigger things of like, what makes me feel alive, and really being able to see that life is just a game of life design. Like we used to play the game of life, that board game when we were kids. That exists as adults too. And you can work backwards and be like, oh, I actually want to travel 2 months every summer and 2 months every winter. Okay, great. That's the equation we're working with. Now let's work backwards. Who do you need to work for? Or what business do you need to start to make that a reality? So getting really intentional with who are you, what's important to you, and what life do you want to design? That's phase 3. I call it the self-awareness journey. And once you have clarity on that, phase 4 is the self-actualization journey. That's, exactly what you want. You're firing on all cylinders. Let's turn your dreams into reality. And I'm a big believer that, and I know this, we can do anything we put our minds to. Humans are limitless creatures. I've done Ironman. I'm doing an 100-mile ultra marathon later this year. That's on the physical front. I know, Christina, we've both done 10-day silent meditation retreats.
Yep.
I believe we should be pushing ourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually, but the human experience is limitless. And when we have the right coach in our corner, when we have the right systems in our lives, which is a big thing I work on, how do you create systems so that nothing is holding you back? And the right belief systems, because Henry Ford has a quote that's like, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're probably right. So getting to the point where you truly believe that you can, it's like, what do you want to do? How do you want to play the game? What do you want to bring to life? Mm-hmm. And that's what it's all about for me, helping people really tap into that infinite potential.
That was so beautiful. And I couldn't agree more with so many things that you've said there. Like, I genuinely am a firm believer that, like, in a way, life is a game and we're here to create whatever we want to create. It's just, you have to kind of find out, like, so many people don't know the life they want to create. A lot of times we are told like what we should or shouldn't believe in. And I love how you help people like break that down to get to their true essence on what actually like is who they are. And I do feel like there's such a misconception also about what like happiness is. The only thing that I could like think of in my mind when you were talking about too is I'm a firm believer where it's like things aren't always going to be easy. Like you said, like I could be running a marathon and be like super alive, but it's going to hurt. To me, the biggest thing that's flipped my mindset was like, when you remember why you're doing something, that's when it becomes easy. Like that's when you're like, I'm happy doing this painful thing because it's growing me into the person that I want to be, you know? And it's like just more creating the reality that you want and who you are.
Totally.
So with that kind of note too, I'm curious. I feel like so many people, you walked around. So for context, you guys, I actually met Brian in Santa Monica, walking around the beach, asking people, what does happiness mean to you? And I feel like that's such a loaded question, right? Because it just from this conversation, we've realized that it means something different probably to everybody. Because what makes one person quote unquote happy isn't going to make another person. Not everybody is here to be the same person. We're all meant to be different for reasons. So what is your version of happiness then? How would you define it for you?
Absolutely. So I've created a personal mission statement. And that's based off of how do I think I can, going back to what we talked about in the first episode, enjoy the passage of time to the fullest. Mm-hmm. And that is that's not a scientific definition of happiness. That is my personal definition of happiness. Am I enjoying the passage of time in my life? When I am not enjoying the passage of time in my life, I'll ask myself that question once a month. I know I need to pivot something. When I am enjoying the passage of time, that's like, all right, let's keep on doing what we're doing, or how can I make even more of that? But the mission statement that I arrived at to optimize for that in my life is I want to make my life an epic and meaningful adventure while helping other people feel alive. I want to make my life an epic and meaningful adventure while helping other people feel alive. And I think I've arrived at the conclusion that I'm here to help people feel alive, because I think the opposite of comfortably numb, which you just talked about, is feeling fully alive. And most people are numb. Most people are just going through the motions and looking for the next way to numb themselves, whether that's social media or alcohol or conversations about politics. You know, it's all an avoidance. It's all an avoidance from self.
Yeah, distraction in any way, shape, or form.
And so, as opposed to being vulnerable with ourselves and with others, you know, as opposed to allowing ourselves to feel all that life has to offer. And that's why I say happiness is a tool to get beyond, because having a broken heart might not be happy, but it makes you feel alive. You know, finding those moments that really make you realize that this is a crazy experience, this human thing. This isn't just, you know, just showing up every day to check in and check out. There's so much to experience in this short but sweet life we have, this time we have on earth. And I realized that, you know, when I go back to my mission statement, make my life an epic and meaningful adventure while helping other people feel alive, I feel the most alive when my life is an epic and meaningful adventure. So that's why it's important for me to first make myself feel alive. So I'm a big believer, you know, all of us are healers in a way, but our job is to be a lighthouse. And most people are ships lost at sea in the middle of the night. We are the lighthouse. We are on shore. The only way those ships lost at sea are going to find their way to shore is if our light is as bright as possible. If our light is on, those ships know where shore is. They can find their way to shore, and then they too can be a lighthouse for other ships at sea. So I've learned, and I think this is really relevant to happiness journeys, and honestly, especially amongst what I've seen in women. Women love to put everyone else first. They love to, you know, say, oh, I have to take care of my kids. I have to take care of my work. I'm last. Men too, but specifically I've seen this with women coaching clients. They put themselves last. We need to put ourselves first, because when you put yourself first, when you do what makes you feel alive, your energy will help other people feel alive. Your essence, let alone whatever you do beyond that. And so for me, you know, happiness, epic and meaningful adventure, it is doing things like a 100-mile ultra marathon at the end of the year, or in October, to see what I'm capable of. And not just the race itself, but the journey to get there. You know, it's the training days where I'm waking up at 5 or 5:30 before anyone else can get to me. And I'm doing my morning routine of exercise, meditating, and journaling. It's the little moments of presence. It's, you know, the time with my girlfriend who's fully aligned with me on both the life we want to build, but also the spiritual journey we're on. Happiness to me, and I know I'm just giving a super long-winded answer now.
No, please. Okay. It's so, yeah.
It's fully engaging in what life has to offer. And it's not easy to do that, but there is a way to do that. And I'm doing my best to walk that path.
That was beautiful. I know you're like, that was a long version of it, but such an inspirational version because it's just, you're hitting all the key points that I love. I tell people all the time, you cannot take care of anybody else until you take care of yourself. I guess another question that I had for you, do you have any questions?
No.
I guess another question that I have for you would be so those people who are in that comfortably numb state, right? We've talked about that a decent amount and they do feel stuck. What's probably the best advice you can give them to getting out of that stuck state?
Yeah. So first of all, I think that this won't help them get unstuck, but I think this is just something that everyone should note. Life is short. We all think we have infinite time. I think one of the greatest gifts in life is a sense of urgency. One of the greatest gifts we can have is a sense of urgency because that gets us to take action. And so many people are saying, I'll start living when I retire. I'll start living. I'll go on that dream trip after this happens. Life is happening right now and nothing is guaranteed. So do you want to wait until anything can happen? You know, that time may never come. And, you know, even there's been studies on like executives who retire, their whole identity is work. So there's a very high rate of death amongst executives within 2 years of retiring.
Wait, is there really?
Yeah. So many of them are like...
Same with doctors.
Same with doctors, exactly.
Yep.
So they're all thinking like, oh my God, I am like going to have so much money in my bank to travel the world as soon as I retire. They retire and a large portion of them compared to the rest of the population pass away within 2 years because their entire identity is work and not knowing how to, and they don't know how to not work. So first of all, the only thing that exists is the present, is the now, is us three having this conversation right now. That's the only thing I know is real. And for you listening to this podcast right now, this moment that you're listening to is right now. So do you want to take advantage of this? And what I would tell you is whatever that thing that you feel called to do is, and you know there's something, you know there's a dream, don't wait. Don't wait to pursue that thing. And then obviously when you think about the thing, your fears pop up, whatever. Of course you're going to have fears because it's different from what you're doing now. Find the right support to help you get there. And honestly, a coach changed my life. Find a coach, find someone who will believe in you. So that's what I want to say to like the general population in terms of you who are stuck. I think it goes back to what I talked about in the last podcast you guys had me on. Mm-hmm. Mood follows action. Mood follows action. And you may think, how could I ever be happy? Like I am in such a hole. I have so many commitments. So start small and it'll grow from there. But if this podcast is resonating with you, all three of us here love to help people. Reach out to one of us. Because oftentimes, as I said, getting out of that place of stuckness requires either hitting rock bottom, which I do not want you to reach. And I mean that sincerely. I do not want you to have a rock bottom moment. I'd prefer you have a moment of inspiration that inspires you to reach out to someone who can really help you and guide you on that journey. So start taking small actions, doing the things that are scientifically proven to make us happier, like exercise, like meditation. And again, it could be as simple as just like one big deep breath to realize that people have been in worse situations than you. And they've turned their lives around, and so can you. And know that I believe in you.
Dude.
Yeah.
I wish everyone listening right now watched the video for this because he was so passionate about it. And that's what I love though, is when people are doing something that they truly love, like you can feel the energy and it's inspiring.
Just I'm enamored by your energy and who you are as a person. I think that your journey is just, not only has it been incredible, but to see the platform you've created with it and this beauty of light and just wellness and, you know, no pun intended, but happiness. And it's amazing to see. And so I feel very grateful to be in this space with you because I feel like every day we're constantly picking up new ways to learn, new ideas to create. But there's something so special about sitting down with these certain topics and creating such deep conversations on them. And that's one of the reasons why Christina and I built this podcast in the first place. We wanted the opportunity to sit down with incredible people such as yourself to share these incredible stories and thoughts. And it's a beautiful experience.
I appreciate that and that reflection. And I received that.
Yeah.
That's something I've been working on. I haven't been always good at receiving because I'm such a giver.
Yeah.
And I bet you guys are givers as well based off of your lines of work, but the art of receiving compliments, that has allowed me to fuel my cup even more. So I received that. Thank you. Yeah.
There you go.
On that note then, to kind of wrap up everything, I'm trying to think. How about you just give us your best advice or any last words that you want to tell our audience?
The last advice I want to tell the audience.
Yeah. Our engineer said, "What's the meaning of life, you guys?"
I mean, I kind of said it. It's to enjoy the passage of time, but it goes back to this concept that I talked about. Don't wait. Don't wait. And that's in every aspect. Don't wait to be your authentic self. Don't wait to tell people you love them because you don't know if you won't get the chance, or you don't know if you feel it and they don't know, you could be missing out on the opportunity to date the person of your dreams. Don't wait to go after your dreams because your life can be everything you want it to be. But because you're not pursuing that, you just assume that this is your life. So don't wait to do the thing you feel called to do, because this life can be so epic, so amazing, so enlivening, so loving. If you are intentional, if you go after the things you want, if you practice the things that are scientifically proven to make us happier, this life can be awesome. And I want it to be awesome for all of you. I'll leave you with that.
Man, I feel like my life is awesome right now.
It's been just awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. No, Brian, thank you from the bottom of my heart so much for coming on. And I'm super excited for everybody to give this a listen. And for our viewers too, we will go ahead and link in the caption and description every way you can reach Brian, all of his resources and tools and his contact information, his cell phone number. No, I'm kidding. Maybe. But any way to reach
I prefer FaceTimes over text.
But yeah, any way to reach him or his resources, we will link in this episode. And thank you guys so much for listening. Until next time, I love you.
Thank you so much, and keep shining your light.
Thanks. Peace.